One day, everything seemed to stop. The engines that once roared across icy highways fell silent, and the constant stream of videos disappeared almost overnight. For millions of followers, Angelica Larsson had become a familiar presence, someone who shared not just her work, but her lifestyle, her challenges, and her passion for trucking. Then suddenly, she was gone. The absence was jarring. There was no dramatic farewell, no clear explanation, just a noticeable void where her content used to be. Naturally, speculation filled the gap. Some believed she had burned out. Others thought she had walked away from the industry entirely. A few even suspected something far more serious was happening behind the scenes. But the truth was far more complex than a simple disappearance. What unfolded was the result of mounting pressure, risky decisions, and the collision of multiple demanding roles. To understand how everything unraveled, it's necessary to step back and examine how it all began. Before the fame, before the business ventures, before the scrutiny, there was simply a young woman fascinated by powerful machines and the open road. Her story is not just about success or failure, it's about how quickly momentum can shift when passion turns into pressure and when a personal journey becomes a public spectacle. Early life and the roots of a passion. Long before she became an online sensation, Angelica Larsson was drawn to trucking through something deeply personal: family influence. Growing up in Sweden, she watched her father work as a truck driver, gaining an early appreciation for the scale and complexity of the profession. For many, trucks are simply large vehicles on the road. For her, they represented independence, skill, and a kind of freedom that couldn't be found in traditional career paths. By the age of 19, while many of her peers were still deciding their futures, she had already taken a decisive step by earning her commercial driving credentials. This wasn't a casual decision. It required discipline, technical knowledge, and the ability to handle high-pressure situations. Driving heavy vehicles is not just about steering. It involves understanding weight distribution, navigating tight spaces, and maintaining focus over long hours in challenging conditions. What set her apart early on was not just her competence, but her confidence. She approached the work with a calm assurance that made even the most demanding tasks seem manageable. This foundation of skill and determination would later become a key part of her public identity, but at the time, it was simply the beginning of a career she genuinely loved. Breaking stereotypes in a male-dominated industry. The trucking industry has traditionally been dominated by men, making Angelica's presence both unusual and compelling. As a young woman operating massive vehicles across difficult terrain, she naturally stood out. However, it wasn't just her appearance that captured attention, it was her ability to perform at a high level in a demanding field. She wasn't trying to challenge stereotypes, she was simply doing her job. Yet, in doing so, she unintentionally became a symbol of change. When she began sharing glimpses of her work online in 2014, the response was immediate and intense. People were fascinated by the contrast. Someone who could easily fit into a completely different profession, choosing instead to master one of the toughest jobs on the road. This contrast created a narrative that resonated widely. It wasn't about appearance versus ability, it was about redefining expectations. Her growing audience saw in her a new kind of role model, someone who embodied both strength and individuality. This shift in perception was significant, as it highlighted the evolving nature of industries that had long been resistant to change. Angelica's rise wasn't just personal, it reflected a broader cultural moment where traditional roles were being questioned and redefined. The rise of a social media phenomenon. As her online presence grew, Angelica Larsson quickly transitioned from a regular truck driver sharing moments of her life to a full-fledged social media phenomenon. Her posts offered a unique window into a world that many people had never seen up close: long-haul journeys, challenging weather conditions, and the intricate process of transporting oversized cargo. The authenticity of her content played a crucial role in its success. She wasn't staging elaborate scenes or presenting a polished narrative, she was simply documenting her reality. This approach resonated deeply with audiences who were increasingly seeking genuine experiences in a digital landscape often dominated by curated perfection. Her follower count grew rapidly, moving from thousands to hundreds of thousands and eventually into the millions. With this growth came new opportunities. Brands began to take notice, recognizing her ability to connect with a wide and engaged audience. What started as a personal project evolved into a professional platform, bringing both financial rewards and increased visibility. However, this transition also introduced new challenges, as the expectations associated with her growing influence began to shape the direction of her content and career, partnerships, and the expansion of her brand. One of the most significant developments in Angelica's journey was her collaboration with major industry players, including Scania. Becoming a brand ambassador marked a turning point, elevating her from influencer to recognized figure within the trucking world. These partnerships opened doors to international travel, new experiences, and increased exposure. She was no longer just documenting her work, she was representing a global brand. This shift brought both prestige and responsibility. As a public figure associated with major companies, her actions and content were now subject to greater scrutiny. Every post, every video, and every statement carried weight. At the same time, she expanded her own business ventures, launching merchandise that capitalized on her growing popularity. This move transformed her audience into a customer base, creating a new revenue stream and further solidifying her position as an entrepreneur. The combination of sponsorships and personal branding created a powerful financial model, but it also added complexity to her already demanding lifestyle. Managing these different aspects required careful coordination and constant effort, setting the stage for the challenges that would follow. The hidden pressure behind the success. While her public image suggested a life of excitement and achievement, the reality behind the scenes was far more demanding. Balancing the roles of truck driver, content creator, and business owner required an extraordinary level of commitment. Each role came with its own set of responsibilities and expectations, leaving little room for rest or personal time. Long hours on the road were followed by equally long hours editing videos, responding to followers, and managing business operations. The pressure to maintain a consistent online presence added another layer of stress. In the world of social media, visibility is everything, and taking a break can quickly lead to a loss of momentum. For Angelica, this meant staying active even when she was exhausted. Over time, this relentless pace began to take its toll. The passion that had initially driven her work started to feel like an obligation. The freedom of the open road, once a source of joy, became intertwined with the demands of content creation and brand management. This shift marked the beginning of a deeper struggle, one that would eventually impact both her career and her well-being. When passion becomes a business. The transformation of a personal passion into a full-scale business is often seen as a success story, but it also comes with significant challenges. For Angelica Larsson, this transition meant that every aspect of her work was now tied to financial outcomes. Sponsorship deals, merchandise sales, and audience engagement all became interconnected parts of a larger system. While this created opportunities for growth, it also introduced new pressures. Decisions were no longer based solely on personal preference. They had to align with business goals and contractual obligations. This shift can be difficult for anyone, particularly when the original motivation was rooted in enjoyment rather than profit. Over time, the distinction between personal identity and professional brand became increasingly blurred. The need to maintain a certain image and meet external expectations began to overshadow the authenticity that had initially attracted her audience. This tension between passion and business is a common challenge for influencers, but in Angelica's case, it became a critical factor in the events that followed, the breaking point and sudden changes. The turning point in Angelica's story came abruptly. She announced her departure from a major partnership, a decision that surprised and confused many of her followers. The lack of clear explanation only added to the uncertainty. Speculation quickly spread, with various theories emerging about the reasons behind the split. At the same time, her business operations began to show signs of trouble. Her merchandise platform, once a key part of her brand, experienced disruptions that left customers frustrated. Orders were delayed or unfulfilled, and communication became inconsistent. These issues created a sense of instability, both for her audience and for her business partners. The combination of professional changes and operational challenges marked a significant shift in her trajectory. What had once been a steadily growing empire now appeared uncertain. This period of transition was not just about external events, it reflected deeper struggles that had been building over time. Disappearance and growing speculation. Following these developments, Angelica's online presence diminished significantly. The regular updates that had defined her connection with her audience became infrequent, and eventually, almost non-existent. This sudden silence fueled speculation, as followers attempted to make sense of her absence. In the absence of clear information, rumors filled the gap. Some believed she was dealing with personal issues, while others thought she had chosen to step away from the public eye entirely. The lack of communication created a disconnect between her and her audience, highlighting the fragile nature of online relationships. For someone whose career was built on visibility and engagement, disappearing from the spotlight was a drastic change. However, this period of silence was not necessarily an end. It was a pause, a moment of reflection and reassessment that would eventually lead to a new direction, the reality behind the collapse. The decline of Angelica's initial success was not caused by a single event, but by a combination of factors. The demands of managing multiple roles, the pressures of maintaining a public image, and the challenges of running a business all contributed to the situation. In many ways, it was a classic case of overextension. Trying to excel in several demanding majalats simultaneously can lead to burnout, especially when there is little time for recovery. The public nature of her career added another layer of complexity, as every setback was visible to a wide audience. This visibility can amplify challenges, making them feel more significant and harder to manage. Understanding the full scope of what happened requires recognizing that success and failure are often intertwined. The same factors that enabled her rapid rise also contributed to her difficulties. A quiet return and new direction. After a period of absence, Angelica Larsson began to reappear, but with a noticeably different approach. Her content was less polished and more focused on the practical aspects of trucking. Instead of emphasizing lifestyle and branding, she returned to the core elements of her profession. This shift suggested a deliberate effort to reconnect with her original passion. She also took steps to regain control of her career by launching her own independent operations. This move represented a significant change, as it reduced her reliance on external partnerships and allowed her to make decisions on her own terms. The transition was not without challenges, but it marked the beginning of a new phase in her journey. Rebuilding trust with her audience. Reestablishing a connection with her audience required more than simply returning to social media. It involved demonstrating consistency, authenticity, and a commitment to improvement. For many followers, trust had been affected by the earlier disruptions. Rebuilding that trust took time and effort. By focusing on genuine content and maintaining a more transparent approach, Angelica gradually began to restore her relationship with her audience. This process highlights the importance of accountability and communication in maintaining a strong connection with viewers. Lessons from the rise and fall. Angelica's story offers valuable insights into the challenges of modern digital careers. It illustrates how quickly success can evolve into pressure and how important it is to maintain balance. The experience underscores the need for clear boundaries between personal life and professional responsibilities, as well as the importance of sustainable growth. For aspiring creators, her journey serves as both inspiration and caution, demonstrating the opportunities and risks associated with building a public presence. The emotional toll of living in the public eye. As Angelica's journey unfolded, one of the least visible yet most significant factors was the emotional toll of constant public exposure. For Angelica Larsson, life was no longer just about driving trucks or running a business. It had become a continuous performance under the watchful eyes of millions. Every success was celebrated publicly, but every mistake, delay, or inconsistency was equally magnified. This kind of visibility creates a unique kind of pressure. Unlike traditional jobs, where challenges can be handled privately, influencers face immediate and often harsh feedback. Comments, speculation, and criticism can arrive within minutes, shaping narratives before the full truth is even known. Over time, this environment can lead to stress, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. The expectation to remain positive, productive, and engaging, regardless of personal circumstances, adds another layer of strain. For Angelica, this meant that even during periods of difficulty, stepping away was not a simple option. The fear of losing relevance or disappointing followers can make breaks feel risky. This constant tension between personal needs and public expectations likely contributed to her eventual withdrawal. It highlights a broader issue within digital culture, the assumption that creators are always available, always resilient, and always in control, when in reality, they are navigating complex emotional landscapes behind the scenes. The complexity of managing independent ventures. After stepping away from large partnerships, Angelica Larsson shifted toward building independent ventures, including her own trucking operations and business initiatives. On the surface, this appeared to be a powerful move, regaining control and reducing reliance on external sponsors. However, independence comes with its own set of challenges. Running a business requires not only expertise in the core field, but also knowledge of logistics, finance, customer service, and long-term planning. For someone already balancing multiple roles, adding full ownership responsibilities can significantly increase complexity. Decisions that were once shared with partners now rested solely on her shoulders. Financial risks became more direct, and the margin for error narrowed. Additionally, rebuilding a brand after public setbacks requires careful strategy. Every move must be calculated, as missteps can quickly undermine progress. Despite these challenges, the decision to go independent also offered opportunities for growth and authenticity. Without the constraints of corporate agreements, she had greater freedom to shape her content and operations according to her own vision. This phase of her journey reflects the delicate balance between control and responsibility, illustrating that independence, while empowering, demands a high level of discipline and resilience. The changing nature of audience expectations. One of the most significant shifts Angelica faced was the evolution of her audience's expectations. Early in her career, followers were drawn to the novelty and authenticity of her content. However, as her platform grew, those expectations expanded. Viewers began to anticipate not only regular updates, but also higher production quality, more engaging storytelling, and a consistent level of entertainment. This shift is common in digital media, where audiences quickly adapt to new standards. For Angelica Larsson, meeting these expectations required increasing amounts of time and effort. What once felt spontaneous and natural became more structured and demanding. At the same time, the audience itself became more diverse, bringing a wider range of opinions and preferences. Balancing these varied expectations can be challenging, as satisfying one group may disappoint another. This dynamic creates a constant pressure to evolve while maintaining the core elements that initially attracted followers. In Angelica's case, the tension between authenticity and performance became particularly pronounced. The need to meet expectations may have contributed to the gradual shift in her content and the eventual disconnect with parts of her audience. Understanding this evolution is key to appreciating the broader context of her journey, redefining success beyond numbers and fame. After experiencing both rapid growth and significant setbacks, Angelica's perspective on success appears to have shifted. Early in her career, success was closely tied to metrics, follower counts, views, brand deals, and revenue. These indicators are often used to measure influence and achievement in the digital world. However, they can also create a narrow definition of success that overlooks personal fulfillment and sustainability. For Angelica Larsson, the challenges she faced likely prompted a reevaluation of these priorities. Returning to a more grounded approach to trucking and content creation suggests a focus on long-term stability rather than rapid expansion. This shift reflects a broader trend among creators who, after experiencing burnout or public scrutiny, choose to prioritize balance and authenticity over constant growth. Redefining success in this way does not diminish past achievements. Instead, it adds depth to them. It acknowledges that true success involves not only reaching milestones but also maintaining well-being and integrity. La Roca the journey. Angelica's evolving perspective serves as a reminder that success is not a fixed endpoint, but a dynamic concept shaped by personal values and experiences. Conclusion: a story of reinvention and ongoing growth. The journey of Angelica Larsson is ultimately a story of reinvention. From her early days as a passionate truck driver to her rise as a global influencer and entrepreneur, and through the challenges that followed, her path has been anything but straightforward. Each phase has brought new opportunities and obstacles, shaping her into a more experienced and self-aware individual. While her initial empire may have faced setbacks, the lessons learned from those experiences have paved the way for a more sustainable and authentic approach. Her willingness to step back, reassess, and rebuild demonstrates a level of resilience that goes beyond professional success. It reflects a deeper understanding of what it means to navigate a rapidly changing world where personal and public lives are increasingly intertwined. As her story continues, it serves as both an inspiration and a cautionary tale for others pursuing similar paths. It highlights the importance of balance, adaptability, and staying true to one's core motivations. In the end, her journey is not defined solely by its highs or lows, but by the ongoing process of growth and the determination to keep moving forward, no matter how challenging the road may be.